All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Kirstina. I'm a CPE or Career Peer Educator at the Career Center. I'll be kind of hosting our alumni chat for today and facilitating along with Kylie, who is our Career Center grad intern. Kylie, do you want to introduce yourself really quick?
Yes, hello, I'm Kylie. I am currently the grad intern in the Career Center, and I've been working on some projects this semester with Kirstina in the education and youth development area. But I am really taking the back seat today, and Kirstina will be moderating and kind of leading this session.
Yeah, and I know that you all are watching or attending to hear from our wonderful guest speaker, Leidra. So I'll give a quick introduction and we'll get into some questions. Leidra graduated from UVA in 2011 with a BA in Sociology and currently works as the Director of College Success at Lynchburg Beacon of Hope in Lynchburg, Virginia. Lynchburg Beacon of Hope is a nonprofit that helps students access post-secondary education by providing support for students in elementary school through college graduation. Leidra has held a few different roles at Lynchburg Beacon of Hope, and as the Director of College Success, she now serves students after they enter higher education, doing things like guiding them through financial aid and providing emotional support to ensure a successful transition to college. So Leidra, thank you so much for joining us today. And just to start us off, would you like to supplement anything to that introduction about your background or what you do, and then also tell us about your day-to-day work in your current position?
Sure. So thank you again for having me, Victoria. Thank you for joining us. And for those of you who will view this video in the future, I hope that you gain something from it. And don't hesitate to reach out if I provide anything that is relevant to you. Christina, thank you for that introduction. It was exceptional, and I think it gives me maybe more credit than I deserve. But as far as my day-to-day operations, I do oversee our Office of College Success. And as you talked about, we help students transition from high school to whatever their post-secondary goals are. So we have students who are in technical and trade programs. We have students who are in community college or attending a four-year college or university. And then we're also working with students who have a direct path to the workforce. So some of our students have started in school and maybe stopping out to go into the workforce, or they just wanted to go from the beginning. So we help support students wherever they are. Currently, we have over 450 students that we are responsible for. We've been scholarshiping students in Lynchburg since 2013. And right now we probably have maybe 20, 25 alumni, and then the rest of them are all current students in school or students who have started their workforce goals. I feel like the day-to-day, it's different every day. And I think that's why I like it so much. And I think you'll probably get that a lot in the nonprofit world, that every day is different. In my role specifically, in 1 hour, I can be talking to a student and working through whatever they need in that moment. It could be just something quick, like, I don't know how to fill out this form. Can you help me with that? Of course I will. Or it can be something more extensive like financial aid. And then the next minute I can be interfacing with a donor, letting them know about all of the great things that we're doing, all of the great things that we've done and what we're hoping to do in the future. And even talking about some of our specific scholars and what they're doing and how their donations help. So day to day, it looks so different. And again, I enjoy it because I don't know, I have a calendar full, every day, but there's so many things that happen in between what's actually scheduled on my calendar. And so in the COVID world, a lot of that has been held via Zoom. The good thing is our organization was using Zoom before COVID ever hit. And so it was kind of an easy transition for us. And all of the events and activities that we were doing in person, we just threw them on Zoom as quickly as we could. And then our school system was able to catch up with that.
Awesome, thank you. And can you tell us a little bit about what drew you to this role and maybe what has drawn you or kept you in the nonprofit sector specifically?
Yeah, so I will say what initially drew me to this type of work. I started with the Virginia College Advising Corps, which is a program that is run through UVA, places recent graduates in rural and urban areas to help increase the college going culture for low-income students, underrepresented students, and first-generation students as well. And so I started with UVA doing that program. I was placed in Martinsville, Virginia, and I got bit by the bug. You know, this was something I had never heard about until my 4th year. I was meeting with one of my mentors and I said, hey, I want to work in admissions. And she said, I'd love to hire you, but we can't right now, but here's another opportunity for you. Simultaneously, I was being recruited by Teach for America, and I loved the concept of TFA. You know, again, it's that short term, you know, placing young folks in areas that need some help and support. But I didn't see myself as a teacher. And so I was like, I really like this concept, but it doesn't feel like it fits me all the way. And that's when I found out about BCAC. And, you know, I loved everything about my collegiate experience. I loved everything about my UVA experience. And so I said, you know, I would love to be able to share this with other people. And so that's what got my foot in the door. And I remember talking to my mom back in 2011, 2012, saying, I would love to do something like this back at home. I would love to be able to do this at my high school. And little did I know Beacon of Hope was coming into formation, and that one day I would actually have the opportunity to do exactly what I learned with BCAC and be able to implement that in my hometown.
Awesome. And Victoria, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat or let us know as we go along. Yeah, and Leidra, I was wondering, you talked about this a little bit with like BCAC and how like expanding access to education is obviously the kind of main mission of Beacon of Hope, but can you talk a little bit more about how equity and advocacy play a role in the work that you do?
Yeah, so that's a big thing. You know, I think the biggest thing is giving, you know, everyone equal footing to pursue their hopes and dreams. And so Beacon of Hope specifically was birthed out of a dialogue on race and racism in our area. So similar to a lot of the things that we're seeing in the news today that are not new to America, happened in Lynchburg. And our mayor at the time said, we need to talk about this as a community. This is not a Black issue, it's not a white issue, it's an everyone issue. So let's talk about this. So from these dialogues on race and racism, there was an education subcommittee that was formed. And from that subcommittee, Beacon of Hope was birthed. And the whole concept was creating a model that no matter, you know, where students are from in our area, no matter what zip code that they live in, that they will have an opportunity to pursue post-secondary education or whatever it is that they want to do after high school. And that there will be an organization, there'll be a group of people, that there will be a community supporting them to do that. And so this work is really unique in that you know, this organization has really embraces not just the 9 of us who are on staff, but there's a whole community force that's behind it, wanting to see our students in Lynchburg City be successful. And so, you know, equity and advocacy are huge. I mean, that's what I do every single day. You know, the advocacy piece is talking with the college partners that we work with and saying, hey, you know, this is how I see you can make this system better to help the students that we're sending to your school. And so it's just a lot of conversations, you know, all the time with anybody that we can speak to about enriching the student experience. And something else that I love about Beacon of Hope, we do, you know, a large portion of our work does serve, you know, first generation, low income and underrepresented populations, but we are a universal program. So we don't limit ourselves to one type of group, but we do have target services that we provide. And so I love that it's universal. We meet students and families wherever they are, because whether you're coming from a family that has money or a family that doesn't, the college admissions and financial aid piece is a bear. And so it's different for everyone. And so we just kind of meet everybody where they are and help get them to where they want to be. So I think that's equity and advocacy in a nutshell.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned that there's 9 people on staff in the entire organization. Is that right? That's everybody. Yeah. And I was wondering, since you serve such a large group of students, what are some of the impacts of your work, either on like an individual scale or community scale? Like, how do you see the impact of your work?
Yeah. So I would say I've been with Beacon of Hope for 7 years. I've been here to see a lot of the growth, which has been awesome. So when I joined the team, there was just 4 of us. So it's been awesome just to see how, through fundraising efforts, we've been able to, raise enough money to add staff, but then also sustain that staff. But in terms of outputs, I mean, there's been so many, the number of FAFSA completions has increased. The number of students that we see going to school has increased. The number of students who are staying has increased. Our overall retention rate for our program, this includes our community college students and our 4-year students, is 94%. And so this is from 2013, to present day. With our community college students specifically, this last class of 2020, their fall to spring retention was 85% compared to 75% and below for the non-scholarship students who are at our local community college. And that's huge. And that was also a greater percentage than our previous class. So each year, things are getting better. Long term, we'll be able to see, even more outputs and what the effect really is. But we've seen, immediate impact. I think the biggest thing, so we have 2 different scholarships. We have our Commonwealth Scholarship, which is the one that we've been doing since 2013. And that's a competitive scholarship that's available to Lynchburg City School students pursuing education in the Commonwealth of Virginia outside of the Lynchburg area. But in 2019, we launched what we call our Promise, and that's either free community college or up to $8,000 to our local 4-year partners. So that's Liberty University, Randolph, Sweetbriar, Lynchburg, Citrus College of Nursing. And then this year, Longwood is adding into the mix of that. So really excited about having that new partner. So having launched that Promise, we saw exponential increase in the number of students, specifically going to community college and seeing that as a viable option to start their post-secondary career. And so that's been tremendous. We've seen the outputs. I think what's so cool for me is, coming into this type of work, being a sociology major, and it's basically one big experiment that you're getting to do to see students succeed. So you add this and you tweak this and you see how this works and you see, what the outcomes are going to be. And so far, almost 10 years of Beacon of Hope's existence, and we see that it's working. And because it's working, there's more buy-in from the community. There's more buy-in from a donor standpoint. And so I feel like we're involved in so many things right now. You were very much college focused in the beginning, and now taking this whole, not taking a whole new route, but expanding the route to career, because we know that, not every student's going to pursue college right after school. And we consider college, pursuing a next piece of paper, so it doesn't have to be the traditional 4-year experience, but really we're just trying to widen the road, widen the opportunities for students. And I think, to put a pin in this particular question, all I can say is that it's working. And I'm proud to be a part of something that is actually working.
Yeah, I mean, just by those numbers alone, it seems very impressive. And it must be cool to have gotten in at the very beginning of this organization and to see it kind of grow and evolve and the impact on the community that it's had. It sounds really awesome. So to take it back to your UVA experience, could you tell us a little bit about how experiences that you had at UVA kind of propelled your interest in working in education or in the nonprofit sphere, and what prepared you for the role that you are in now?
Yeah, so I would say, going back to what I said originally, I really loved my experience at UVA. I just love college in general, and I had friends and roommates who would laugh at me like, why do you love this place so much, or how do you love this? You're always talking about school or whatever. And so to be able to take that passion and to implement it or turn it into a career, that's been an amazing piece in and of itself. But specifically, I wanted to work in admissions, thinking about, in your 4th year, as you're trying to figure out, what's next, what do I want to do? And, thinking through what I want to do, event planning, or, working with people in some way, what do I want to do? And so I just started asking questions of people and, talking with mentors and just people that I knew, just to see, how do you get your foot in the door in different places? And at UVA, I volunteered in admissions for a while. And so I was talking with one of the deans of admissions, and I said, I would love to be in admissions. I think I figured it out. This is what I want to do. And like I stated earlier, she said, we're only hiring internally right now. So, I would hire you, but I can't. And she said, but here's another opportunity that you should consider. And when I read the description, I said, this is me. This is what I want to do next. I want to, work in the service field and help other students figure out what they want to do next. And so, in addition to my work in admissions, I was also a peer advisor. So helping, as an upperclassman, helping incoming first years with their experience and navigating that at UVA. So just kind of in my DNA, in the things that I did at UVA, and it just made sense for me to make this transition.
Yeah, and then to switch gears a little bit, I know that for students who might be like considering working in nonprofits, one barrier might be kind of the salary piece, that maybe they're really passionate about the work that an organization is doing, but there is this perception that nonprofit careers are less lucrative than some other fields. And so I was wondering if we could get your perspective on your experience of navigating finances and salary working in the nonprofit field, and maybe what benefits you've found working in a nonprofit team as well.
Yeah. So my advice has always been, and it will always continue to be, follow your passion and the money will come. In the nonprofit world, yes, I think there is this perspective that the salaries or the benefits are not as good as the private sector, which in some cases that is true. For me, I'm fortunate to have found a nonprofit that is in good financial standing and there's support behind it. There's benefits and my salary. We would always want more money, but it's definitely, a good place to be in. And so I would say, don't limit yourself and do your research and see what is out there, because not every, nonprofit worker is making $20,000 a year. There are people who are doing well, in this sector. So I would say just do your research, and then also, do a cost benefit analysis for yourself. Is pursuing your passion at this moment mean more to you than the salary that might come with it? Is there something that you can do on the side to supplement your salary? And we live in such a great time period that, everybody has some sort of side hustle or something that you can create. So I would say just do your research and be open. Don't cut yourself off, because there are opportunities out here, people who are doing well in the nonprofit sector.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for anyone looking to kind of dip their toe in the nonprofit world. In terms of like skills or experience, do you have any advice for students who are hoping to pursue nonprofit work?
I would say, I think similar to my last interview, just ask questions, talk to people, listening to, this type of Zoom gathering. There's so much information out there, and, I didn't graduate too long ago, and Google, it means so much more now than it did then. So, there's so many opportunities and ways to get information. So just do your research, and UVA has a wealth of resources, a wealth of people who are willing to help you navigate. So I say, while you're, in the UVA bubble, take advantage of it, and ask questions, and don't feel like you're being silly for asking questions. You don't know what you don't know. So it's good just to connect with as many people as possible, and see what got them into their career field, and how they got there, and what connections that they have to get you to where you want to be.
Yeah, definitely. And is there, before we open it up to other questions, do you have anything else that you want students to know about you or the work that you do?
I will say this, I left this out of the finance and salary piece. For those of you who are going into the nonprofit, world, start a Roth IRA as soon as you graduate. As soon as you start making money, open up a retirement account, because 401k benefits are not something that often come in the nonprofit world. And so, even if you're just in nonprofit for a little bit of time, and then you end up, going in the private sector that has more benefits, you can still contribute to having your own Roth IRA in addition to a 401k. So do it as soon as you start making money, because it will help. And it's all about starting a habit. So it doesn't matter, how much you do in the beginning. It could be $10 every paycheck. Just do it and get into the habit of saving money for your future. So that's a big one. I'm really stuck on the finance piece right now and sharing that same information with our students who are in their fourth year or their senior year of college and ready to make that transition to the workforce. So do that and do your research on it, find a bank that works for you. You can have automatic transfers so that you don't even see the money, but do it. Um, and I would say, similar to what I said before, reach out to me directly if you have any, additional questions here as a resource to you as well beyond this Zoom call.
Yeah, that's a real pro tip with the Roth IRA for sure. Yeah, and thank you for offering to have students contact you. I think we have a question from Victoria in the chat. Let's see, Leidra, you may be able to see this, but for students who are watching later on, I'll just read it out loud. Doing nonprofit work involves dealing with a lot of systemic issues, as you described. How do you tackle these issues in your work while staying motivated to promote change?
That's a great question, Victoria. I will say the team that I work with is really good about supporting. I have a really awesome boss who knows the amount of work that we as a team put into what we're doing and supporting students and their families. And it can get heavy at times. So she says, take a personal day when you need to. And I take advantage of that because it is important to be able to regroup, to take some time for yourself so that you're able to give to other people. And I think, when you find something that you're passionate about, the motivation is always there. When you see an issue, you're always motivated to tackle it. But I think I'm fortunate that I have people that I'm working with that truly understand it. I have a leader who truly understands the work and how taxing it can be on the team as a whole. So I think her understanding and her taking the initiative to take care of us is important. So I think, also I've gotten good at kind of separating work from my personal life, even though it bleeds at times. But something I learned from one of my previous jobs, like I have to turn it off, when I get home. I have a young one now. She's 1.5, and so she is my priority when I come home. And so I turn off my work phone. I turn off my computer, and I know that everything's going to be there tomorrow. So it's finding this balance that everybody talks about. Some days you're balanced, some days you're not, and that's okay. But I think a good team around you, and taking that time for yourself is important to keep you going.
Yeah, Victoria, thank you for that question. And Leidra, I think that's a great perspective to kind of like take care of yourself first, because you can't help other people when you're really in the thick of it. So yeah, I mean, finding that balance is probably tough in a field where you're dealing with issues that probably seem to be never ending in terms of like the hurdles that are in place. But yeah.
Any other questions?
Oh, another one in the chat. Is there a class at UVA you took that you feel prepared you or gave you a good basis to do nonprofit work, or a skill that is very useful for nonprofit work?
Another great question. I would say all the sociology classes I took, some of which I don't even know are still there, but I took what was it? Pop culture. I can't remember the entire title, but pop culture, I think, was the very first sociology class that I took. And that's where I got bit by the sociology bug. It's just a great way of thinking about things. It was something that made sense for my type of personality, all of it. So I fell in love with it. But I took one on death and dying. That's not really about nonprofit, but I mean, it's a reality of life. I took a course with Milton Vickerman, and I cannot remember the name of the class. It was about essentially class, and classism. So I think that was a good one for the work that I'm doing now. But yeah, every sociology class I took could be applied to what I'm doing now, especially social statistics or social theory and social statistics. Being able to use and analyze data in an appropriate way, and then also be able to interpret data that you're seeing, coming in, what's true and what's not, and how data can be manipulated as well. So social stats was a good one for that.
Very nice. Good to know the search stuff is very applicable in the real world. Very cool.
Yes.
Yeah, in our last few minutes here, Victoria or Kylie, feel free to jump in with any last questions or just things that were interesting from the conversation today.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we got another one. So go ahead and definitely use Victoria's.
Yes, yeah. So our next question, besides working with students, do you connect with the students' families? If so, what would be an advice you have for working with families, particularly those coming from marginalized communities?
Yeah, so Victoria, you are literally killing it with the questions. These are really, really thoughtful questions. And so, yes, we do work with families because in a lot of ways, the college decision is a family decision. So we deal with the whole student, and a part of dealing with the whole student is also working with their families. And sometimes there's going to be disagreements between parents and or guardians and their child. And I've been in the middle of that as well. And in that situation, my focus goes to the student and helping them kind of navigate, what's next. I think dealing with, different people and marginalized communities, and I come from one, so that makes me be able to relate with certain people, in a different way. But I think it's just learning to speak the language of the community that you're involved in. And so for me, being down in Martinsville, much more rural than Lynchburg, um, uh, there's different desires, different wants, different needs of that community. So I think it's just being so observant, taking in as much as you can. Um, Even going back to dealing with the parent-student relationship, and when I'm in those advising conversations, I'm reading the room, I'm reading the body language, I'm looking at the parent, seeing how they're responding to the student and vice versa. And so I just think learning the language, asking questions, and seeing what their needs are, what their desires are, helps me, better communicate with them, better advocate for students, to just being open. And there's some, I've, dealt with some parents who, in one conversation have been very dismissive, and then they've kind of seen how I've stuck around, throughout the whole year or the whole couple of years, and like, okay, I bought into you now, help me. um, and that's all right. And the same with students as well. There's been some students who they'll see me coming down the hall and run, run in the opposite direction because they're like, oh, there goes the college lady. She's going to talk to me about, my future, and I don't want to deal with that. And so those same students who have an awakening later, I give them the same support that I would have if they, talked to me, day one of their freshman year, day one of their senior year. And we've had so many of those students, and some who've come back, even after they've graduated, and just being there to still support them. And so that's what I love about my job. I don't force anybody to do anything. And my boss has recently keyed this phrase of we help students Google Map. So we're helping students and their families Google Map, what they're doing, just being a support to them wherever they meet us, and just kind of helping them navigate to get to their end goal.
I love that analogy. That's cool.
Yeah.
We are getting to 6:30, and I want to be mindful of everyone's time. Any final thoughts from Leidra or Kylie? Feel free to jump in as well.
Kylie, did you have something you wanted to share?
No, I just wanted to thank you for your time. And I was going to ask about that community piece, but you really hit on it with your last answer. And thank you again for joining us, Victoria. Thank you, Leidra, for, being here and sharing your experience with nonprofit. I'm sure that it's really going to help a lot of students that go in and watch this video. The last thing I was just going to ask is, like, if a student wants to contact you, what would be the best way for them to contact you?
Yeah, my email address, and it's Leidra at beaconofhopelynchburg.org, and I assume you'll have it in your communications that you send out. So just shoot me an email and we'll connect from there. Zoom is our friend if you're not zoomed out yet.
Great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
And Kylie, I think we're ready to stop the